over a number of days or even weeks. A man who would put his wife through ongoing public outrage is not much of a man. He is a small-minded and selfish person in the extreme. Any person who contends that his public masturbating is becoming an elected official is as morally and intellectually bankrupt as the gutter snipe himself. Invoking God and Christ as his aiders and abettors is beyond reprehensible. It is blasphemous and sacrilegious, but that's a matter for religious people to deal with. Sample of Kentner-inspired rhymes. Kentner's free to masturbate on his own time, but not free to masturbate on the taxpayer's dime. And you have people down here saying they're concerned about taxpayers' money, supporting Kentner and defending him. They're just like him. Birds of a feather, excuse me, birds, wherever you are. And if a God of birds there be, I beg your forgiveness. The bird said, carry on, brother. We wish you had feathers, and if we could bestow wings on you, you would soar like eagle and swoop like the falcon. But such was not meant to be, because the gods of the birds are not the ones who created human beings. Oh, and they said, thank God of the birds that they don't stoop to the level of human beings. Here's what I want to get across.
1 minute.
Either we mean what we say or we don't. I mean what I say. I made a promise, and I'm keeping it. I said I'd do it for the 90-day session. Any one of you at any point can make a motion or offer a resolution to expel Senator Kentner or to impeach him. But you want to sit back and let me do the hard, dirty work as I've done for so many years on the floor of this legislature, while you can sit back and be quiet and have it both ways. The job is done, but when there's criticism, you can say, but I didn't have anything to do with it. Yet you'll sneak up to me and say, Ernie, I'm really glad that you're willing to do it. I can't do it because my constituents. I said, oh, I don't have constituents? I don't have a neck to risk? They say, yeah, but you'll do it and you're not afraid. They have sized me up correctly. And as Shakespeare said, who knoweth me well knoweth me ill, but some people know me too well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Seeing no one else in the queue, Senator Shoemaker, you're recognized to close on your motion. Senator Shoemaker waives closing. To be clear, we are voting on the adoption of temporary rules or the extension of temporary rules until the 17th day of the legislative session, which is the 27th of January. All those in favor vote aye, opposed nay. Have all those voted that wish to? Please record, Mr. Clerk.
37 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Shoemaker's motion.
The motion is adopted. Any items?
Actually, I do, Mr. President. Thank you. Hearing notices from the Business and Labor Committee and the Revenue Committee. I have motions to withdraw from Senator Chris with respect to 642 and from Senator Keene with respect to LB 583. Senator Wishart offers LR 19, Mr. President, new resolution. That'll be laid over at this time. And that's all that I have. Would you recognize the speaker?
Speaker Scheer, you're recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been asked by several of you in relationship to our starting time on Mondays. I've researched this, and although the last several years we have been starting at 10 o'clock on the first day of the week, that only goes back to Speaker Beshear's time. Before that, it was always at 9 o'clock. In the essence of trying to utilize the most time that we have available, it will be my intent to start at 9 a.m. every day, including the first day of the week. With that, the caveat that we will be meeting or starting at 10 a.m. on January 30th and February 6th, and that is to accommodate a meeting of the freshman senators with the clerk and myself to go over any questions and routines of the floor as a whole. So again, the normal starting time on the first day of the week will be 9 a.m. unless otherwise previously notified to you on the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleague Senator Brash would like to recognize some special guests in the North Balcony. They are the Nebraska Cattlemen YCC class of 2017. Could you please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska legislature? Thank you for visiting. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Mr. President, the Rules Committee would offer proposed rules change number 2. Number 2. Senator involves an amendment to Rule 5, Section 7.
Senator Hilgers, as chair, you're recognized to open on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposed rule number 2 is the second of Senator Haar's proposed rules relating to fiscal notes. And with that, I will yield my time to Senator Haar.
Senator Haar, you yielded 9 minutes and 48 seconds. We're having a little difficulty. Stand by for 1 second.
I got it. Thank you, Senator Hilgers, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. This is a follow-up to the previous. How do we better inform ourselves, and how do we make ourselves better legislators and more responsive to the people who ultimately we serve? Earlier this week, I had the privilege to sit in an Ag Committee hearing, revenue, and someone brought up fiscal note and they didn't agree with it, but they hadn't had time to really review it. And I said, well, lucky for you, later this week you'll have a chance to address that issue. And that's what this is about. People ask me, do you like being a state senator? I say, yes, I absolutely enjoy it. I love it. It's a huge sacrifice to my family, and I appreciate all they do, but I really enjoy it. And they say, well, what don't you like? And without missing a beat, I always say fiscal notes. The way we do fiscal notes, beyond a reasonable doubt, is broken. We have escalated fiscal notes to a higher stature, as I said earlier, than policy. And yet we do not provide the services to ourselves adequate to that status we have given fiscal notes. More bills, not just this year, but especially this year, are killed by fiscal note than by policy. And that is wrong. And we have to do something about that. So I went and looked at the system, tried to figure out what we can do. And I came up with, I introduced a proposed rule change. And after some negotiation, I came up with what was eventually passed, which is 72 hours. Now, you're going to hear an amendment to make it 48. Think about this, folks. 24, 48, 72. It's the same amount of work. I'm not asking them to do anything more than what they're already doing. They're doing the work. They do good work. If they don't have enough staff, that does not mean we should pass bad legislation. That does not mean we should handicap ourselves. We should tie one arm behind our back and say, okay, fine. We make legislation here, folks. We need to make sure that we properly educate ourselves and that we talk to those people who are working with us on our bills, and that we have a chance to talk to the fiscal office. How many times have you gone down, gotten a fiscal note, and said, oh, geez, I have committee hearings, I got after committee hearing, I want to go talk to fiscal office. And they say, I got to get fiscal out by noon. I don't have time today. That is a staffing problem. In this world, there are me problems and there are you problems. That's not a me problem. All I'm doing is asking them to take their deadline and move it up 48 hours.